Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rise of the Phoenix. I want to give a shout out to Aaron Bowie, who commented on one of my recent videos asking me to do an analysis of Imrahil and kind of talk about why I think he isn't as good as it seems like he might possibly should be on paper if you're just looking at his skill tree. So that's what the video today is going to be about. But before we get into it, if you enjoy my content, please do consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right into it. I have Imrahil pulled up here. We're going to try to make this a little bit short and sweet. I've put some thoughts together, and hopefully they make sense for you guys. I think the moral of the story, the too long didn't read, the Cliff Notes version is that Imrahil is just not particularly point efficient. And so that's probably most of what I'm going to focus on. Secondly, I think he doesn't have the tools necessary, or I should say the tools that cavalry-focused commanders want to have. So let's talk about the first point. He has access to the heir title, which in my opinion is quite bad. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't find that a small stacking defense bonus every single round is particularly great in a lot of situations. Maybe there's something with like low defense units that you could do with it. However, this guy's going to be wanting to run cavalry, and cavalry tend to already have reasonable defensive stats. What they want is offensive stats. So I don't think I think this is kind of a dead skill tree for him, particularly because Gallant is behind it, and I think these percent bonuses to attributes are quite horrible once you start doing the math. There might be some cases like on Galadriel, Respect 5 Galadriel, where you can start pushing her to like 600 focus or something ridiculous. Like in that case, it might be worthwhile. But for most players, particularly free to play and low spenders, I don't think you'll ever get enough bang for your buck out of this. So we already kind of have one dead skill tree there. Let's take a look at the fair. It's a 2-round cooldown, deals some damage, and gives units initiative. The max level effect is actually kind of interesting in my opinion. I tend to weigh experience bonuses as quite awesome. The problem is once you hit level 50, there's no reason to ever like put 15 points in this. So like early game, maybe it's cool, I suppose, but like not having a max level effect at all once you're level 50, that's pretty awkward for something that you're going to invest 15 points in. I think it would kind of be cooler if it just gave 5% XP and then like once you have 15 points it also provides initiative or something like that. But just something to help it out, to put points into it. Like for 1 point, this is actually a super good skill for 1 point. For 1 point every third round your army gains initiative. It's just after that it's like, what am I really getting, right? So that is kind of wishy-washy. My feelings are wishy-washy on that. Brawler is actually pretty decent, especially for fighting evil factions that like to field basically exclusively melee armies. And Cleave, that's just an okay damage skill. And this is actually, I suppose, a third point. I feel like Imrahil is kind of confused as a commander. So he has like buffing skills here, and then he randomly just has 2 damage skills. It's kind of awkward. As far as ally goes, this is just another case, in my opinion, of point inefficiency. If you put 15 points into ally, you get a whopping, an absolutely massive 1 health on men. Okay, let's compare that real quick for a second. Yes, I know that this is Theoden. He's one of the most overpowered commanders in the game. Look at this, Horsemaster. Not only are you gaining attack, which is in my opinion the best base stat that you can possibly take in the game, you're gaining attack per point and 5 HP compared to Imrahil's 1 for 15 points. So just absolutely point inefficient in my opinion. Reinforcement, I'm not super fond of because it only starts in round 7. And to the best of my knowledge, healing is based on how much health your units have left. And so it's like by the time this starts healing, you're probably not going to have that much of your army left over anyway. And so to me, I don't know, reinforcement is always just a weird skill in my opinion. So I don't think that's really that great either. Fortify, if you can take advantage of it, is actually really good. So the baseline for damage reductions is generally 14%, and this is actually better than that. It just comes with the caveat of having to defend. I actually think it's an okay skill if you make use of guard frequently with Imrahil. The problem is it's behind this, which, like we were just talking about, isn't particularly efficient. And the crown jewel of inefficiency is his Respect 5 title, Prince of Dol Amroth. They get +1 speed per point. 1 speed. We were just looking at Theoden, also a tier 2 commander, +1 damage per point. I mean, the difference is just astronomical. Sure, this also provides stun and madness immunity, but it's just yet another case of why would I put more than 1 point into this skill? Gaining speed on mounted units that are already going to be faster than pretty much every single other unit in the game, it doesn't really benefit you in the same way that gaining damage on Theoden benefits those mounted units. The max level effect is okay. We were just talking about how Theoden +5 HP is actually pretty nice, except Theoden is applying it to all mounted units, which allows him to be significantly more flexible with his army composition. In Imrahil's case, this is only hitting the Horseman Knight, Cataphract, Swan Knight line, and Ally is only hitting men. So like he's really, really significantly more restricted. I said really, really significantly. It's kind of a weird way of saying that. He is significantly more restricted on which units he can run. I mean, he even has nobility. So Theoden has more damage and a very flexible Respect 5 title. Stun and Madness immunity simultaneously is nice, but why would you take this to 15 of 15? The answer is actually mounted combat is a pretty reasonable skill. If you do the math, it's roughly a 14% damage increase to mounted units across the board on average. The nice thing about mounted combat is it actually triggers a second attack, which can be useful in certain scenarios, like when avoidance or stacks of damage reduction are into play, like for Arwen and other things like that. It's like every time they get hit, the reduction gets lowered a little bit. So it's a reasonable skill, I suppose. Like I think it's a skill that you can take. It also has a nice interaction with Retaliate. As far as I'm aware, if you have a Retaliate weapon and your cavalry procs that Retaliate attack, it can also proc mounted combat. So there is a cool interaction there as well. Pretty reasonable skill. And the new coalition, this just got changed a couple of days ago, at least. I think it was like 1 to 2 days before the recording date of this video. I think the new coalition is actually kind of cool. I don't think it's cool on Imrahil though. And I think it's cool because elves having a chance to gain initiative means that the Witch King matchup is changed, because now your elves can potentially go before the Witch King's army in convener rounds because you can scoop that initiative. The problem with Imrahil is that, like we were just talking about a few minutes ago, he wants to always be running men. So probably this part, elves getting initiative and being able to beat out Gandalf's or Witch King initiative just like doesn't exist for Imrahil. So it's quite awkward. So at the end of the day, I think the fair is relatively point inefficient. I think Prince of Dol Amroth is very point inefficient. Like 1 point in each of these is great. Why would you go past that? I think Ally has an absolutely terrible max level effect for an investment of 15 points. I think this would have to go up to like at least 3 HP. Like at 3 HP, it would probably be pretty good at that point for the 15th point. And I think the air is just a completely dead skill tree. And real quickly, to talk about the second reason that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is what do cavalry want? Well, let's take a look at a couple of the very strong cavalry commanders. They have Rohirrim, which is probably the best damage title in the game. If it's not the best, it is certainly up there. So they have an excellent damage title in Rohirrim. Horsemaster is just absolutely absurd. Getting plus 15 base attack is tremendous. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Everybody knows Theoden is ridiculous. And they have a little bit of healing to help out. Theoden also has access to a respectable damage reduction, and he has even more offensive firepower in the form of Chaotic Retreat, which reduces the defense of enemy units. So all in all, offense, 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 and a little bit of defense to back it up. Let's also take a quick glance at Éowyn. I respect 9 Éowyn, hopefully respect 10 this season. We can believe. Same thing in here with Rohirrim. Offensive power there. We have White Lady providing healing and stun immunity. Like, compare this to Ally. Which would I rather have? All my units being permanently immune to stun or 1 HP? You know, go figure. So, healing, offense, and some more damage reduction. So both Éowyn and Theoden, and even Éomer, we can take a very quick look at him. Rohirrim is the same. Aerid Leader is the same that Theoden has. Now, Éomer could actually be built as a glass cannon too, because he has access to a whole slew of damage skills. But as far as a cavalry commander goes, he just has that same mix of offense and defense, and it's just great. I mean, that's exactly what cavalry want, because at the end of the day, cavalry tend to have, on average, better effective HP than infantry units because you are paying more for them. Even when you factor in the fact that you're only getting 50 cataphracts per command, when you compare their survivability to, say, Guards of the Tower, they have more effective HP. They're already good units defensively. What they want is they want the ability to kill the enemy army. And unfortunately, Imrahil just makes them more tanky overall. So he makes them better at what they're already good at. But sometimes being just good at only one thing isn't good enough. So in my opinion, he's point inefficient. He lacks offensive buffs for cavalry. And I think that is one of the things that makes cavalry very strong. And finally, I think I mentioned this way earlier when we were talking about all these men buffs that he has. He's very restricted on the types of cavalry that he can use, whereas Theoden, you just give him any cavalry and he's going to plow his way through 3 or 4 armies on his own. So yeah, that's it. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something useful. Let me know what you think about Imrahil down in the comment section below. Am I completely wrong with my reasoning? Are any of these skills better than I give them credit for? Let me know what you think. I'll catch you in the next one. Rise of the Phoenix, over and out.